Hello everyone, it's day 71 and today I have May 13, 2024 Indian Express newspaper and contrary to the to everything today there is no important article I found over the explained page and there are two important article I found over the editorial page, that is page number 8. So let us see what these articles are going to say. So first article, it is combinedly written by Dr. Ashok Gulati and Ritika Juneja. So this is about the make it farmers friendly. So this article title is make it farmers friendly. So export policy, this article is talking about the export policy. So export policy has a consumer bias. This needs to change if you want to augment farmers incomes. So let us see. Agricultural exports touched $48.9 billion in 23-24, registering a 8% decline from $53.2 billion in 2022-2023. This is significantly short of the ambitious target of $16 billion set by the Narendra Modi government for 2022. Not only this, the growth momentum in agri export during the 10 years of Modi government seems to have lost steam, dropping from an annual average growth rate of 20% during the UPA government from 2004-5 to 2013-14 to a meager 1.9% during 2014-15 to 2023-2024. In absolute terms, while India's agri exports surged from $8.7 billion in 2004-5 to hoping $43.3 billion in 2013-14, a vault jump of almost 500%. They only lost thereafter, reaching $48.9 billion in by 2023-2024. This indicates a decline in trade surplus from a peak of $27.7 billion in 2013-14 to $16 billion in 2023-2024. Had the growth momentum of the UPA period been sustained during the NDA period, agriculture export could have reached the $200 billion mark today. Since agri exports have strong implications for income of the farming community, there is an urgent need to chalk out a new strategy to revive them. This requires a deeper dive into the structure of exports and the reason behind their sluggish growth during the NDA period. It is important to note that the rice holds the top position in India's agri exports basket, valued at $10.4 billion from 16.3 million tons. This represents roughly 21% of the total value of agri exports in 2023-2024. Following rice are marine products, $7.3 billion, constituting a 15% share, spices, $4.25 billion with a 9% share, bovine meat, $3.7 billion with an 8% share, and sugar, $2.8 billion, accounting for 6% of the total share. So India's agri exports are influenced by two main factors. One, how global prices of agriculture are behaving, and two, how liberal is our agri export policy. When global prices are on the upswing, India's agri exports also surge, as was the case in the UPA period. But when global prices fall, our price competitiveness also get blunted, and agri exports suffer, as was the case in the first 5 years of the Modi government. Beside global price dynamics, export restriction and outright bans on the sensitive agriculture commodities like wheat, rice, sugar, and onions lately have significantly impacted agri exports, driven primarily by the concerns of domestic food inflation. This began with the ban on the wheat exports on May 13, 2022, followed by the restriction on sugar exports in June 2022. On July 20, 2023, exports on non basmati white rice and broken rice were prohibited. Additionally, on August 25, 2023, a 20% duty was imposed on parboiled non basmati rice exports, along with minimum export price MEP on basmati rice, initially at $1,200 per ton, but later reduced to $950 per ton in October 2023. Recently, while the export ban on onions was lifted, it was replaced with a 40% duty in addition to a MEP of $550 per ton. Export restriction on rice after rice offer valuable price policy lessons. As India announced its rice export restriction, the international price of rice surged by approximately 25%, escalating from $494 per ton from during April to June 2023 to $620 per ton in January 2024. This helped exporters of basmati rice and parboiled rice get better price realization, despite a 27% drop in the rice export from 22.3 million ton in 2022-23 to 16.3 million ton in 23-24. The export value realization only decreased by 6% from $11.1 billion to $10.4 billion during the same period. So here is a policy lesson. In a global market of around 53 million ton, if India export say 22 million ton or more rice, it will bring down the global price to Indian levels. So, trade theory suggests an optimal export tax to ensure the marginal revenue from additional exports should not fall. Our research indicates India's optimal rice export quantity should be around 15 to 16 million ton. Beyond this, additional export with yield diminishing marginal revenues. In other words, India will have to export more quantity to get the same export revenue. This is not a wise policy. A prudent policy option would be to impose a 15% export duty on common and parboiled rice alongside lifting the outright export ban. In the case of rice, which is a 65% irrigated, there are also concerns related to depleting groundwater, especially in the Punjab Haryana belt. Free power and highly subsidized fertilizers are leading to an ecological disaster. It is widely recognized that producing 1 kilogram of rice required between 3,000 to 5,000 liters of water for irrigation. So, assuming an average water usage of approximately 4,000 liters per kilogram of rice, with roughly half of this water seeping back to groundwater, exporting 16.3 million ton of rice effectively means to exporting 32.6 billion cubic meters of water. So we must recognize that high subsidies on power and fertilizer confer artificial competitive advantage. Essentially, true export competitiveness hinges on boosting productivity and achieving more with fewer resources. This goal demands significant investment across agriculture, including research and development, seeds, irrigation, fertilizer, and adopting resource efficient farming practices like precision farming, fertigation, etc. These strategic investment can drive down per unit cost, enhance global competitiveness, increase agriculture export, improve farmers' profitability, as well as protect the environment. The case of onion is unique. The government announced opening up its export just before polling in Maharashtra, but put a very high MEP with 40% export duty, making the effective export price of rupees 65 per kilogram. This is when farmers are currently selling onions at rupees 13 to 15 per kilogram in Lasalgaon, not enough to receive their cost. However, they are deprived of the export opportunity that could have lifted their domestic price. All this shows that the government policy has a consumer bias which implicitly discriminate against the farmer. This needs to change if we want to augment farmers' income. So this was one other important article that I would like to read. It is about the safer web on the same page. It is about protecting children on the internet calls for frank conversation at home and in the classroom. So, at a time when technology is integrated into all aspects of life, how can society's most vulnerable member be better protected from its harms? A question like this one day behind the observation on May 6 by a single judge bench of Delhi High Court, which said that efforts to protect minors should go beyond teaching them about the good touch and bad touch in the physical world. Invoking the concept of virtual touch, Justice Swarn Kanta Sharma said minors must be equipped with the knowledge and tools to navigate online interactions safely and recognize potential risk lurking in cyberspace. More than 3 decades since the internet entered the public domain, the understanding of how the World Wide Web impacts society, especially children and young adults, struggles to keep pace with the evolution of the technology itself. Complicating is the fact that the generations of so called digital natives that have emerged since the late 1990s have limited or no experience of a world without the internet, even as those responsible for putting safeguards in place continue to frame the unique challenges of the digital world in analog terms. There is a little doubt that the pervasiveness of the internet has made it easier for children and young people to be exposed to dangers, including the child sexual abuse, online harassment, cyberbullying, and blackmail. So, existing laws such as the Protection of Children from Sexual Offences Act and Digital Personal Data Protection Act, which mandates that parental consent be taken for processing a child's data, go some way towards addressing these concerns. But legislations can only play a limited role thanks to the dynamic nature on the internet and its threats. For any effort to protect children to be effective, it must begin from the home and the classroom, while with the frank conversation between children and adults that also take into account for farmers' concern and experiences. As Justice Sharma said, this would involve teaching children about appropriate online behavior, recognizing warning signs of predatory behavior, and understanding the importance of privacy settings and online boundaries. The internet is a resource not just for adults but also for children who rely on it for education, entertainment, socializing, and self realization, and a fear based approach would only be counterproductive. Considering that a majority of children in India still either have no or restricted access to internet, what is called for is a balanced approach that keeps the child safe online while recognizing her right to access the internet. So this was all about from today's newspaper. We'll meet with another important article on tomorrow. So till then,